Hi, I'm Chris,
And I'm Kelsey.
and this is World's Worst Deaths. Today's topic is fungus. So, Kelsey, what are the world's worst ways to die from fungus?
We're all thinking about deadly fungus right now. The nation is absolutely gripped by the riveting drama, The Last of Us. The idea that there is a real life fungus out there with the ability to do any kind of mind control is absolutely horrific.
Cordyceps, the zombie virus, right?
Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, which is also known as just as we've been calling it, cordyceps, or the zombie ant fungus. Like other parasites, the cordyceps fungus drains its host completely of nutrients, just sucking up all that good body juice before putting spores back into the body that will let the fungus reproduce. Then the mind of the insect is compelled to seek height and remain there before it expels the spores, infecting other nearby insects, probably its own colony, in the process.
I hate all of this.
I mean, that's horrible, right? Like, there's nothing pleasant about that.
That's just nature. That's just a string of evolution deciding that's the best case scenario for all parties involved.
Exactly. Yes, this is natural selection in progress. And so in the show, when we see all those wonderful, terrifying special effects of just like little fungal tendrils coming out of every orifice, that is very like what happens to these poor ants and spiders and wasps.
Ugh, I hate that. I hate that a lot.
We live with fungus. We love fungus. Human beings have been taking psilocybin for many, many years and poisoning themselves just to go on a magical little trip. We put fungus in our bread and in our food, which is coincidentally in the show how the disease spreads is the food supply, which is probably how any large-scale pandemic would spread.
That's how I'm gonna get it. I love to eat bread.
You love to eat bread?
Yeah.
Like, what is your relationship with mushrooms in general? Are you a mushroom fan?
Sure, I like some chicken marsala every now and then.
Yeah, I love a good tuna noodle casserole with the mushroom soup. Love that.
I like wine that's fermented from yeast, it's a type of fungus. I take medicine, antibiotics, adapted from fungi.
See, that's right. Let's get into antibiotics then. Why are fungal diseases in general so scary? There are thousands of deaths every year attributed to fungal disease. In 2021 alone, an estimated 7,199 deaths occurred. That was just 2021.
That's insane.
Yeah, right? They're really, really hard to cure. When I was doing a little bit of deeper digging as the stalwart and absolutely unshakable reporter that I am, I saw this really deadly new fungal disease called C. auris, and I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to find out, where did this thing come from? And it was first identified in Japan. While they have found out that many cases of C. auris have been resistant to antifungals, which is what they're trying to use to treat this crap, there were 10 cases that were identified that were resistant even to their hardest medicines, which are called echinocandins. I'm a doctor. No, I'm not. And those are the first line treatments of an infection against this. So basically, I'm just trying to terrify you to let you know there is no cure. We have stuff we can do for people that come down with C. auris, but your odds are not looking great. There were some other cases that also happened in 2017 and 2018 in New York City, and they developed the same resistance. These things that are happening in major cities, yeah, there's no cure for them.
How do people get this?
They don't know where it comes from, which is also what's alarming. If you come in contact with Candida auris, you are not 100% guaranteed to get it. It mainly affects patients who already have medical problems and definitely people who have had frequent hospital stays or even live in nursing homes. Also, Last of Us being spot on. The first zombie we see, she's an older woman, right? So the idea that the elderly and the weakened are much more susceptible to fungal infections, very spot on, very true. If you're receiving lots of antibiotics already, if you have a lot of tubes going into your body, breathing tubes, catheters, all of that, this is definitely not good if you're already a sick person. If you come into contact with someone who has it, C. auris can continue to live on the skin. So it's really, really easily spreadable. This is just very, very gross.
Do we know how long it can survive outside of the host body?
When they found the spores for this in a hospital, they had to hydrogen peroxide spray that room for a whole week. They were still finding these spores living days and days after this man had died. These things are really tough to kill.
I don't know how I feel about something that small being that much more resilient than me.
Remember COVID? Remember COVID, Chris? This is giving me like COVID vibes. Like there are mushrooms out there that could absolutely cause a whole ass pandemic. The head of the fungal branch at the CDC, my guy, Dr. Tom Chiller, has described C. auris as a creature from the Black Lagoon that has bubbled up and now it's everywhere. They are struggling to find treatments to stop the spread. This is really alarming.
Dr. Chiller needs a different name because I am stressed.
This is really sad, actually. A lot of people who are at the greatest risk for C. auris are often like HIV and AIDS patients or preterm infants to the elderly. But that's not to say that it can't just kill just about anyone.
No, because again, it can always evolve and become more resilient. The more human specimens it infects, the more resilient to humans it becomes.
Exactly. It sounds really unpleasant. It has caused bloodstream infections, wound infections, ear infections. Basically, it can just lower your immune system and then you're open to all infections, baby. Like,
it just wrecks you.
It just wrecks you.
But something else that always worries me about fungi too is how quickly they grow. The lawn will be freshly mowed, and then the next morning, the grass will still be short and dewy, and all the mushrooms are just towering over the grass overnight. That freaks me out.
That is true. Yes. Like these things can happen so fast, which is what makes it so scary. It may sound kind of boring, right? Like, oh, the spores, they continue to live on in medical equipment and whatever. But look, I had to spend a decent amount of time this last December in a hospital for a family member. And it is horrifying to think of all of the things that live in hospitals. And we go there to get care. We go there to get better. And there's MRSA. There's the last patient who died in here was just letting his mushroom spores be everywhere. That is horrifying.
Ugh.
And it may sound boring because there's not face-eating zombies with like mushroom spores coming out of their ears all moving together and crap. Like,
but the mushroom spores coming out of the ears is exactly what scares me about how quickly fungi grows. If you have a fungus in your skull, before it even turns you into a brain zombie, it just outgrows your skull's ability to contain it. And your head just bursts open.
Such a not nice way to die.
So I do think I agree. Withering away in a hospital room, infecting the hospital further, sounds like the world's worst way to die from a fungus.
Like, look, cordyceps, very scary, very freaky, concerning, not an impossible thing that could happen to us, but if you are visiting a loved one in a hospital, C. auris, that's what you want to look out for, folks.
I don't know if this has anything to do with how resilient fungal infections are, but fungi, the cell walls have chitin in them. So I wonder if the chitin in a fungal cell is what help it retain its strength and helps it defend itself from any would-be antifungal regimen.
What is chitin?
Chitin is the primary component of cell walls found in fungi, exoskeletons of arthropods like crustaceans, and even insects, cephalopod beaks, and mollusks. It is everywhere. It is basically nature's Kevlar armor, okay? And I can't stop thinking about how quickly mushrooms grow, right? You mow the lawn, they're gone. The next morning, they're 3 feet high and taking over the dog. It's insane, and it scares me. I do not like it at all. So I was thinking about chitin materials, and The Last of Us, the fungus overtakes mankind and enjoys our soft, chitinless flesh. What then, Kelsey? What then?
I don't know. I mean, like, I want to know what that feels like.
Well, I have an idea, because there's only one solution. Chitin is a major byproduct of our seafood industry. So I propose we gather all those shells, process them into hard, mecha-like armor, and build giant crab robots. That's right. Chitin crab mechas, the savior of mankind. I have here a couple of conceptual images, one from an anime, and the other I think is Despicable Me.
Oh, so people are already thinking about this, like, you're behind.
At least 2 people have thought about this before.
They're like, you know what? Yeah, why aren't there more crab armors out there? We could use that.
Well, I say 2 people. I did some scouring, and I did find this third image, this beautiful bipedal crab mecha, our final hope, the fightin' chitin titan, as I've lovingly named him.
The final hope is this is like a spoiler for the series finale.
Yes, HBO wishes it could pull this off.
Yeah, they're gonna go off the tracks. They're like, forget the game, we've got a better idea.
That's right, and that's the IRL apocalypse versus these very, very strong mushrooms. You see here artist surrendering of what the world's worst death from fungus might look like. It's chitin versus chitin. Who wins? No one. We all lose, I think. I do think this is where we die. I do think this is where the world's worst death happens. But speaking of very large mecha battles for the fate of mankind, I have not seen the end of Evangelion, but I'm sure it works out just fine for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's the happiest ending anime I've ever seen. It's a delight, and you should definitely check it out.
Hopefully there are crab mechas. So my conclusion, death by chitin is indeed mighty frightening.
There are tons of things out there that we have no solutions for. At least your story had a solution, I think. Yeah, that is much more alarming.
Yes.
You know, I think that a 12-story tall crab man fighting mushroom spore zombies, I'd watch that.
So would I. So would I. Well, Kelsey, all of that information is great, but I think we need to decide now which is the world's worst way to die from fungus.
I tried to find the real Last of Us disease, right? And so cordyceps, that's not happening to human beings right now yet. Human beings, we run pretty hot, right? You know, 98.5 or whatever. And most organisms, their proteins can't survive in our bodies. You know, that's how human beings, that's how we've evolved to live in this scary, disease-riddled world. But there are species of fungus that are able to withstand higher temperatures and that can infect humans. And climate change is letting those fungi evolve to withstand those higher temperatures. While it is not necessarily likely in the minds of scientists, it is absolutely possible that at some point a fungus with mind control capabilities could withstand and live inside a human body. Since mine was just a little, you know, run-of-the-mill, basically, fungus will make you sick and kill you. And granted, that should be terrifying, but chitin is keeping me up at night, like what you said.
I think I'm gonna have to go the other way. I think yours is a little bit more frightening. The idea of going to a hospital and depending on a hospital to make me better, and then just coming away with this incurable fungal infection, that's terrifying to me.
Absolutely. And let us not forget the death rate is like 50%, which is crazy high. Like, I don't think people living in this modern age of science and technology and medicine that we live in, people live with HIV and AIDS perfectly long, beautiful lives. But if you have HIV and you come in contact with this fungus, good night. And that is terrifying.
That's rough. I do not like that.
I'm not sad.
That's my vote.
Why am I always trying to get us sad on our death show?
Yeah, why is the show about death such a bummer?
We're just here to vibe and have a good time, man.
We need more. This is why we need more crab mechas in our life, I think.
I think so.
So what do you think? Leave it down in the comments. Let us know what is the world's worst way to die from fungus in your opinion. And let us know what other topics we should cover. What are other world's worst ways to die? Last time we uncovered the world's worst ways to die from water, so go check that out as well if you liked this. Well, Kelsey, this has been a wonderful, terrible, horrible nightmare time, so thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris, and I'll be seeing you after the end of The Last of Us.
Yes, stay creepy, fungal people.